The only newspaper in the country that seems to be making any kind of money is the Wall Street Journal.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great newspaper, and they are surviving very nicely, at least at a profit.
Yeah, and interesting, don't they charge for some of their content online, I believe?
The Wall Street?
Yeah.
I don't know if they do, frankly. I know that's here and there across the country.
Yeah, some specialized
They're going
publications
into a situation where they'll charge the viewer for the online.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, let's talk a little bit about the role maybe of sports in society. I mean, you write predominantly about sports, but it's not just about X's and O's, who wins and losses. You know, when you read, people read Sid Dorfman's columns, there's a lot of lessons about life. And, you know, why do you think sports is so popular, and what can we learn from it beyond, you know, how to play better?
I know that. I loved it when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I think American youth grows up loving to compete in something.
Right.
And it carries over into what they look for in the newspapers and on television. The World Series, the Super Bowl, these are great events in our country. And I can't explain psychologically why this is so, but people are highly enamored of sports, and some of the sports they should not be enamored of. They're too destructive.
Yeah. So you have, over the years, from what I've read about you, you've kind of pioneered some things which are now standard, like the all-state teams, top 20 rankings, and you increase women's sports. How do you spot these trends? And
well, I did that. I was very confident that if I introduced something new, it was going to work. And I was confident because I relied so much about the love people have for the game. We talk about the love for the game. Kids love it, and their parents support it. For example, I introduced so many different things to the paper, all-state, top 20, things that would interest the fathers and what have you. And I had a brainstorm one day, and I introduced recreation sports for girls.
oh,
And we went to the recreation department, and it was also for boys, come to think of it, and reported them as though they were members of the New York Yankees. And we got such a tremendous reaction, which I gotta say I actually anticipated, from the mothers.
oh,
They loved it. You've heard the expression "soccer mom."
right.
They take their kids to play soccer, and I can do no wrong if I introduce something that has to do with sports, and to cultivate the interest of the parents and that connection. It's got to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I'm sure it's very gratifying when you get comments like that.
I am proud of one thing, that I introduced the coverage of girls' sports in this state. Until then, there was none. Only strictly the boys. And another thing I did was build up the colleges. You know, I remember sitting on the desk because I was a makeup man at the paper as well, and we would get a little release from the public relations department at Princeton, and a little release from the public relations department at Rutgers, and maybe 4 or 5 paragraphs of how their practice went. Today, it's a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
It's a real Princeton, they're sort of neglecting a little, but Rutgers, you know, now has suddenly become a major player in the national scene. Well, I hope it works out for them.
Yeah, they're trying. I know that.
Yeah.
So, I know a number of really top-notch journalists have come through here. You know, names that we know, like the Jerry Eisenbergs of the world and people like that. What do you feel about journalism in New Jersey? Like, from my experience, I think, you know, the quality of what's produced here, the quality of the writers and the publications is really high. Like, how would you compare what we do in New Jersey to other parts of the country?
Well, I think we have good people spotted here and there who do a fine job. I know that when I pick up my paper and I read what comes out of Trenton, I'm satisfied that I've learned something.
Right.
And I've gotten the news that I would want to hear. I think what a newspaper ordinarily must do is take its best people and spot it in the most important places.
Right.
And that's what we do. And it's worked out well. I think we're just as strong in that connection as you'll find in any other state.
Yeah, I said that's really been my experience as well. In terms of your own writing, how do you stay current? I mean, you don't just write columns about things you remember from years gone by. Like I remember a year or so ago, you had a nice column about, I think it was the kid from Seton Hall who was pitching for the Tigers, and you're always up to date on things that are happening.
Well, what happened, I had a sort of a transition in my approach. Years back, I was doing what I would call coverage. Mm-hmm. I'd go to the U.S. Open, I'd go to the World Series, the different major sports events, and find something to write about connected with these events, sort of like a coverage. Then I kind of drifted into something else, perhaps because I grew older, into what I call commentary. Something happens, and I want to express an opinion. And I felt that if I do it well, I'm going to get a pretty good reaction from the public. And I have.
Yeah.
I get letters, I get emails, people contributing their opinions to an opinion I may have expressed. Nothing could be better than that.
Yeah.
Couldn't be better. So today I do commentary, and I'm enjoying it very much.
That's great. Do you, with all the changes that have gone on in journalism, not just recently, but over the years, do you think that there's been a constant in there, that the essence of what journalists do has really remained the same, whether they've been doing it on newspapers, online, through the internet, through cable TV, whatever?
Oh, sure. To put it in a very simple term, bring the news to the public and bring opinion to the public.
It's interesting that you say that with all the opinion on cable TV. You think it's important that we bring opinion as well as news.
Yes, because in many cases I feel the public is waiting to hear what you think about something. Whether you like Obama, whether you don't like Obama, they want to know what you think.
Right.
And you want to get that opinion from someone who's pretty practiced in that kind of an approach.
Yeah.
Meaning that he's covered that kind of stuff down through the years. And he knows what goes on in the White House. He knows what goes on in Albany, in these places.
Right.
And the public depends upon the opinions that they get from these writers, even though they may turn around and you'll get some objection to it. The public will say, hey, oh, you're all wet, you're wrong. But they got their original opinion from somebody who knew what he was talking about.
Right. And that's what people watch, though. I mean, I think you're right. That's what they're interested in. The cable TV stations, though people may criticize them, are getting high ratings, and the people with opinions are, getting a lot of attention as well. So, maybe we're nearing that end part of our conversation, but I just wanted to maybe ask you about the future. What you think the future holds for Sid Dorfman, for the Dorf Feature Service, for New Jersey. You're going to No, I mean, you don't look like you're slowing down. You're going to keep writing your column?
I'm slowing down.
Okay.
I just turned 90.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. And it's a very lofty figure, and it has an impact on you that no other prior figure had. Even when I turned 80, I didn't think much of it. When I turned 90, that's when I felt that, maybe I ought to be thinking along those lines of easing up a little. But I found something other than that. I found something that sustains me by continuing to do what I do. The only thing that might restrain me is that if somebody said to me, "You're not doing it well anymore."
Yeah.
Well, so far that hasn't happened, and it'll happen if it happens, because if I do poorly, because somebody will call my attention to it. But it hasn't happened at all. As a matter of fact, the last word I got from the publisher, he was very delighted with the column. So I will continue to write it as long as I can sit down by the computer and do it. Yeah,
no, that's great, because I think people love your columns, and it's great for you to be able to have a job and do something that you really love.
Yeah, well, that's true. Of course, I'm involved with the operation of the Dorf Feature Service.
Right.
Still, although a lot of it, an awful lot of it, has now been transferred to other Dorfmans. It's Gary Dorfman.
Right, it's a real family
You've met
business.
Gary
Yeah, no Gary.
and Scott.
Yeah.
And they're kind of taking over. And they're going into different fields. In transmission. I don't have the technical background that Gary has, but he's developed a device there that can move copy into other papers very well, and I won't even attempt to describe it. And I know I couldn't have made it, but he can, and he's young enough to do it.
Yeah.
Same thing with Scott.
Yeah. Okay. Overall, where do you see the industry headed? I know we hear a lot of negative things in terms of, as I said at the outset, how economic factors have really made it more difficult to produce quality news. But I always like to say sometimes it's a matter of whether you look at the glass as being half empty or half full. From the half full, we have all these new ways to get information to people faster than they had it before. I mean, what's your outlook on where the industry is headed?
First of all, there has been no reluctance to buy newspapers. It's being done through the country.
Okay, well, that's a positive sign.
And
okay.
Of course, I might want to add that maybe they're doing it because they want to turn a quick buck. I'm not too sure about that. But I also feel that there's a reason to sustain a newspaper. How far back do you have to go before literally millions and millions of people in this country read a paper? Not many years, relatively. And this was a habit that's very hard to break. And I think they're with us now. How long they will remain, well, we can only hope for the best. Certainly, papers have lost circulation. But I also attribute that to the cost of buying a newspaper. You don't have to buy a television report. You buy the television, but that's it.
Right, yeah.
You can go into other areas of coverage. But newspapers, to put out a newspaper is still very expensive. You got to buy the paper.
Right. The whole production process is expensive.
The operation of it, the production. So what will result, and I think there are years left, what will result years later from now when this vast readership has dwindled? Will it dwindle to a point where here is where it will stay? I don't know. I buy 3 newspapers a month. I pay $134. How many people are paying $134?
Probably not that many anymore. Yeah.
See, that's the problem, and it's a major problem, especially in the time of a depression.
Right. People are looking where they can save money.
Recession. So that's I remain optimistic to the end. I feel we will have an industry. Exactly what form and shape it will take, I'm not positive, because the adjustment has to happen not so much with the editorial content as with the cost of producing it.
Right.
That's what it's all about.
Okay. Well, I'd like to end on that optimistic note, and thank you for spending a few minutes with me talking about journalism.
My pleasure.
This is Rich Lee from the Hall Institute of Public Policy. You've been watching the Hall Institute Public Forum, the first of our special series of shows on New Jersey media. My guest has been Sid Dorfman, founder and president of Dorf Feature Service. Thanks for watching, and we'll hope you'll catch our next show.